today I wanted to talk with you about one of the primary differences between boys and men. Again, this has nothing to do with age, and it has more to do with the way that you show up, the way that you act. And yes, I'm going to be talking about it from the context of your sons and the young men you might lead and coach and interact with on a daily basis. But I want you to ask yourself the same question for you personally, and then also ask the same questions for the males who should be men but are acting more like boys. Maybe that's a brother or a cousin or a colleague. Maybe it's even your father. But I know plenty of people in my life who should be men. They're males, but they should be men, and they're acting like boys. So the other day, I was outside and I saw this little toy scale that we had. And my youngest son has this big old like milk crate. It's probably 5 by 6 feet. And then it's probably 2.5 to 3 feet deep. And so we turned that into a little pool. We've made an ice bath. We've done a lot of different things with it. But I saw this little scale outside of the pool outside. And he brought it out because he wanted to play with it. And then later that afternoon, I looked at it and I realized that it was broken. It was smashed. Clearly, it had been smashed. So pretty confident in who the culprit was, I called my 2 youngest sons down and outside. And I simply asked, who did this? Who broke this toy? Because it was very clear that somebody had deliberately and intentionally broke this toy. And the older of the 2 confessed, and he said, I broke it. And I said, why did you break this toy? And his response was, I just felt like breaking it. And I know what that feels like. Not only breaking a toy, but just throwing an entire wrench in the system of life, just being destructive for the sake of being destructive. I think that's our masculine energy. Those are the hormones that are coursing through our veins. That's the power and the strength physically that we have. We want to assert our will. We want to assert our dominance. We want to at times destroy. This isn't something exclusive to boys and young men. This is something that all males experience. And I believe that one of the greatest threats in society that we face today is the lack of righteous fathers in the home. And I'll tell you why that is. Because a righteous father is the only individual, maybe that's a little too harsh, a righteous man, I will say. I don't think this applies as much to women, but a righteous man, we'll call it a father figure, is the only individual in a young man's life that is able to temper and refine that destructive spirit and nature that all of us as males possess. You've heard me refer to it as the natural man. The natural man is lazy. He's weak. He's emotional. He's overly emotional. He responds and reacts based on emotion alone. And he doesn't produce effective outcomes for himself and the people that he cares about. My son was acting in a way that he thought was congruent with who he was as a man and a male. He wasn't really deliberately and intentionally thinking about that, but that what was going on. And it's up to us as men, whether that's a biological father or you've adopted a child or you're a foster parent or you're a coach to young men in your community. It's up to us as men to refine that destructive, raw power and desire to destroy. And again, this isn't exclusive to young males. It's exclusive to all of us. It's what courses through all of our veins. So I told my son, as he said, I just felt like destroying it. I said, you know what, and I'm paraphrasing here, but I said, you are powerful. You have the power to break and to destroy and to leave a mess and a wake of collateral damage in your path. You have that power because you're a man. And now you have a decision to make. Do you use that power to destroy, to break things for the sake of breaking things, or do you use it to build? Do you use that same masculine energy and the hormones, the testosterone that's coursing through your veins to build and to harness and to create, or do you destroy? And that's one of the primary differences between men and boys. Boys break, men build. And that's why I say it isn't exclusive to young men, because I know plenty of what should be mature men, age-wise, who are acting more like boys because they're breaking things. This could manifest itself as simple as an internet troll. You know, what a pitiful existence for a male. He literally spends time on the socials, tearing other people down, undermining what they do, mocking, poking, ridiculing. These aren't men. These are little babies. These are little boys. Somebody that goes into a movie theater or a fire station or a school and shoots up everybody that they can is destroying. That's boy-like behavior. So we've got a wide range, a broad spectrum of how this shows up, from the internet troll who doesn't know how to build anything meaningful and successful in his own life, so he has to tear down other people. That's a boy who never learned. I don't care what age he is. It's a boy who never learned how to build things up. To the young males that we see who believe that the path to glory or whatever it is they're after is to take innocent life. Those are children. Those are boys. The beauty of this, though, is we can use the same energy to destroy, to build. And so as I talked with my son about the differences between a boy and a man, I asked him, I said, do you want to be a boy who destroys and breaks things for the sake of breaking things? Or do you want to be a man who is interested in maybe how things work, but uses that strength, that physical, mental, emotional strength, the desire to be physical, to build, to fix, to lift, to edify? And he said, Dad, I want to be a man. I said, good. I want you to be a man. Let's talk about how to do that. And we spent the rest of the afternoon building Lego and doing chores and working on a couple of projects and mowing the lawn. And we spent the afternoon in productivity. I said, man, if you've got enough energy to break these toys, clearly you have enough energy to do something productive. And it's sad to me. Not only is it sad, but it's pitiful and it's disgusting how many adult males have never learned these lessons. And by the way, that's not entirely a failure on their part. That's the failure of the previous generation. If my sons, don't know how to harness their masculinity, that's a failure on me. That's an indictment on me, not necessarily on them. Now there comes a point in time where every man needs to take it upon himself, his own responsibility, whether he was raised in a loving, positive, constructive home or not. There comes a point in time where every man needs to step up and do that. That's part of what we're doing here. But I mean, that's a failure on my part. So I want you to consider, and honestly, give yourself an honest assessment. Am I doing right in this department? And it starts with you, by the way. You know, so many of us will look at our kids and think, you know, I really want to raise my kid right. And I want my daughters, we're going to talk more about daughters, but today we're talking about sons. I want my sons to grow up and to be honorable and to produce and to add value to people's lives. And then these guys don't even look at their own lives. Are you looking at your own life that way? Because they're modeling you. And yes, every boy has a decision whether or not to follow in his father's footsteps. You're going to influence that child, but they're going to make their own decisions. So it's not entirely on you. But look, a large part of how they behave and how they act and how they show up and the way they think about life and how they use that masculinity that's coursing through their veins is up to you. Well, Ryan, you know, what about the kids that don't have fathers? Yeah, There are those children, and it's your job as a member of your community to ensure that these boys get what they need. That's why I believe competitive sports is such a phenomenal outlet for this. I've coached boys who don't have any male figures and presence in their life, and I can tell you with a 100% certainty that I know just by interacting for a brief moment which children have engaged fathers in their homes and which ones don't. I can tell. I can have a conversation. I can see if that boy looks me in the eyes. I can see if he has a level of confidence or even swagger. I can see if he's ever played baseball or catch or played hoops with his dad. I can tell. It's that evident. So when our president's talking about the greatest threat to society or civilization is this idea of white supremacy, that isn't the greatest threat, Mr. President. The greatest threat is that we have a dangerously increasing lack of engaged, capable, righteous fathers in the home. That's the greatest threat. And part of my mission over the past 6 years and moving into the future is focused on exactly that. It's making you more capable so that you can make your sons and the men that you serve in your community more capable of being the kind of men that they have a desire to be and the kind of men society needs them to be. That's the greatest threat. And it goes across racial lines. It goes across sexual orientation. We need more men. So let me give you a couple of pointers here. Maybe you have a couple of pointers for me. Maybe I missed something. If you do, please share with me on the socials, on the Instagram. Hit me a message, tag me in your posts. Let me know what the problem is. Guys, this is a battle all of us need to engage in. And some of you are dabbling. You're listening to the podcast and occasionally you might send me a message or no message at all. You like what we have to share. And you're like, hey, I liked what you had to share. And I appreciate the compliments. But damn, let's get engaged. Share what we're doing here. Call other men to step up. Call other men to listen. Do a group study. Have a weekly get together over fight night or golf or bowling. I don't care what it looks like, but get together with other men and talk about these concepts. Let these guys know where you're hearing this stuff from. Some of you guys are just like peeping and just kind of like in the shadows, Ryan, I really like your stuff. And I've even had people say, I really agree with you, but I can't share it because, my employer, my boss, my blah, blah, blah. No, like, are you going to be a man or not? What a shame if you have opinions and you feel like you can't share them out of some sort of, consequence that might come from it. God, that's not freedom. That's not liberty. It's not masculine behavior. So guys, please share this stuff. All right, let's get into this. Number one, you got, and the way that I kind of frame this, because I did a social media post the other day on this, is I said something to the effect of, men literally and figuratively know how to harness the power of fire to produce effective outcomes, literally and figuratively, right? Literally, we've taken fire, which can destroy and burn and hurt and is painful, and we can harness it to create shelter and create warmth and do all the things that we need it to do. That's what men do, figuratively and literally. So number one is that at times we got to let the fire off the leash. All right. Here's what society does a phenomenal job at doing: treating all little boys and all men like girls. And they even say, hey, why can't you act like little Susie? Why can't you be a good little boy? What does good little boy mean? Well, in society today, it means that you sit down, that you shut up, that you color within the lines, and that you do what you're told. All right. And if you don't act like that, because that's what girls do. I've got 3 boys. I've got a daughter. My daughter is significantly more well-behaved than my sons because that's in her nature. She wants to be a nurturer. She wants to be a supporter. She wants to build. This is in her nature. And so she's significantly more well-behaved by design, by nature, than my boys are. And society says, well, why can't you, little Tommy, be more like little Susie? And they may not say it actually, but everything about their demeanor, everything about the words that they're using, everything about the consequences they administer, everything about the conversations they're having to our young men are saying, you need to act more like a girl. You want some great reading information on this? You can read anything by Dr. Leonard Sachs, specifically Boys Adrift and Why Gender Matters. You can also read Dr. Warren Farrell's work, his book called The Boy Crisis. I've had both authors on my podcast. and they've talked about these issues specifically. If you want to raise men and you want to be a man, then at times you're going to need to let the fire off the leash a little bit. You're not going to let it run rampant. This is a controlled burn, if we're going to use this analogy even further. You're not going to let it run rampant. You're not going to let it do whatever it wants to do. You're not going to not control it. You're going to do a controlled burn, and you're going to let the fire off the leash a little bit. This is why men take risks. This is why we encourage little boys to climb the tree and to build a fort and to take the gun out and shoot. When I was a kid, that's what we were doing. We were building ramps out in the road. We were building tree houses. I remember I was trespassing on somebody's yard and we got shot at with a salt pellet by the owner of that home. I'm not suggesting that you trespass on people's houses, but damn, if you can't take a little bit of risk. When's the last time, for example, you as a man have taken a risk? When's the last time you asked for a promotion or asked a woman on a date or made love to your wife in, maybe a more, I won't say aggressive, but assertive way? Like when's the last time you act like a man? You go to work and the boss tells you what to do and you're a good little boy and you sit down in your cubicle and you shut up and you process your stack of paperwork and you come home and you watch the show and your wife henpecks you and tells you to do all the honey-do list. When's the last time you went on an adventure? When's the last time that you took a risk? When's the last time you actually felt like a man? I'd be willing to bet for the majority of you listening to this podcast and have been listening for any amount of time, it's been a long time since you did that. Well, you know what? Maybe this weekend you ought to say, hon, I love you, but me and the boys are going camping. We're going fishing. We're going to the fights. We're going to the game. And we're going to go out and we're going to have a good time. Again, we're not going to be reckless because we do have obligations and responsibilities. This is not just a free-for-all. This is a controlled burn. Guys, let it off the leash. Don't put yourself on a leash. Some of you are. Take the leash off. Like literally unhook the leash around your neck, throw it to the wayside and go be a man. All right, number 2, curiosity, guys, is a virtue. This ties into number 1, but curiosity is a virtue. So many of us have been conditioned like, oh, don't go over there. Don't, it's dangerous. That's scary. Oh, you're going to get into an altercation with somebody. You're going to disagree with somebody. You're potentially going to risk making somebody else feel bad or feel offended or, oh, you shouldn't explore that thing over there because you got a good job and you got this good thing going on. And, oh, no, don't travel across the country because, you have obligations and responsibilities. Damn, aren't some of you guys curious? Aren't you curious what it would be like to go on an adventure? Aren't you curious about what it would be like to live in a new state? Aren't you curious about taking up hunting or going on that hike or going on that adventure or picking up that new hobby or that activity or sport? Aren't you curious? Cultivate that. We don't need people telling us what to do every single moment of our lives. How pathetic, how lame. Be curious. Be fascinated. Be interested. This life has so much to offer. And so many of us are like, oh, I can't do that because, I got the bills to pay. Yeah, you do have the bills to pay. But does that mean you can't enjoy, that you can't check things out, that you can't be interested in something that maybe somebody told you you shouldn't be interested in? I'm interested in everything. And that's what actually has made me a great podcaster. I want to hear from these guys. I'm curious. Like what works, what doesn't, what have you employed? What strategies and tactics have you used? And then I'm going to use them myself. We're building a canoe. I've built a merchandise business. Obviously, we've built Order of Man. I've been in financial planning. I've done so many different things. And I think quite literally, it's you're doing a dishonor to, well, we'll say it this way. If you believe in God, you're doing a dishonor to God by not moving forward on some things that he may have planted in your brain. And if you believe in creationism, then you're doing a dishonor to your ancestors in the past who have given you wonderful opportunities to explore and to go on your own path. Some of you guys are like, oh, I can't do that. It's not supposed to. It's because you've been conditioned to do that. Be curious. And by the way, what I'm sharing with you today is applies to both you and your children, your boys specifically. We're going to do more about girls and our daughters, but for now we're talking about your sons. Okay. So let the fire off the leash a little bit. Controlled burns. Number 2, Curiosity is a virtue. Be curious and allow your children to be curious. Explore. Here's a great example with that toy that my son broke. Okay, I don't want you to break it. I want you to take it apart. I want you to find the right tools, and I want you to take it apart so you can figure out, how does this work? How does it move? Like what is it? How useful is it? That's what I want. I don't want you to destroy for the sake of destroying. I want you to figure it out. I remember when we first moved to this home here in Maine 2 years ago, we had an old washing machine that needed to be taken out, and we had a dumpster coming, and my wife and I moved the washing machine out into the yard, and my son came to me and he said, Dad, same son, by the way, so you can see his nature. Dad, can I break this washing machine? And initially I said, no, you can't break the washing machine. And I thought about it more. And then I went down and talked to him. I said, hey, bud, why do you want to break the washing machine? He's like, I want to see how it works. Okay, that's different. You're not breaking it for the sake of breaking. I said, cool. So yes, you can break the old washing machine and you can figure out how it works. And so he was out there with a hammer and a screwdriver and rocks, and he was tearing this thing apart. And he came to me and he said, Dad, I remember this vividly. Dad, did you know that there is concrete blocks or blocks of concrete in the machine itself? I was like, I actually didn't know that. And I said, I wonder why they're there. And he says, well, I think they're there so that it keeps it stable, so it doesn't just like wobble around and fly around. Like it's there to keep it stable. Well, it's probably a pretty good reason it would be there. But the point is that he was curious and he was breaking it apart to figure it out, not just to destroy, but to figure it out so that he can create and be more creative, and then have this perspective on how, for example, washing machines work. And he does that with everything. That's his personality. But curiosity is important. All right, number 3. Exhaust these boys, guys. You got to exhaust these boys. Look, so many kids spend so much time behind the Nintendo, behind the Xbox or the PlayStation. I don't know what the thing is, but behind one of those. If I said like Sega, that would probably date me. But behind the PlayStation or the Xbox or the Nintendo or whatever the thing they're using, I don't know what it is. They spend so much time behind the thing. They spend so much time behind YouTube, behind the TV. They never get out. And then you wonder why there's all this pent up energy and frustration and contention. You guys do the same thing. You get home from work and you're like, I'm tired. And then you have dinner and then you plop your fat ass in front of the couch for 3 or 4 hours before you go to bed. Well, yeah, you're not exhausted. You haven't exercised any of those masculine virtues or the masculine hormones like testosterone that are coursing through your veins. Guys, exhaustion is a good thing. You should be exhausted at the end of the day, not because you're fat and overweight and out of shape, but because you've burned it all up throughout the day. And if you're sitting behind a cubicle every day for 8, 9, 10, 12 hours, and that's all you're doing, and you're just punching away at that keyboard and you're staring at those pixels on that computer screen, I mean, you're not exhausted. You're domesticated. That's it. You're domesticated. I watched Terminator the other day with my wife because she's never seen Terminator, or more specifically Terminator 2. And I got thinking about these Terminators. They're robots. They have no emotion. They have no passion. They follow orders. They follow directives. They do what they're told. It's just code. It's just numbers punched into the system. Perform X, Y, and Z. That's not you. Actually, it is a lot of you. It shouldn't be you. Damn. Get out. Exhaust yourself. See how long it takes you to do 100 push-ups. Go run around your house. Get a tee and play baseball with your kid. Play catch. Go build something. Build a fort. Do something. Exhaust yourself. So I hear from so many parents who, women, in fact, a lot of times, they're like, oh, my kid is so hard to control and I don't understand what's going on. And he spends 4 hours on PlayStation. What do you think is going to happen? He's not going to be engaged. He's not going to be excited. He's going to have all that pent up frustration and contention and animosity. And again, the masculinity that's coursing through his veins, he's just going to have it there, like cycling through his body and no outlet to actually do anything with it. Like, go be exhausted. You and your son. exhaust them, beat them down. Obviously not physically beat them, but wear them out. What is it, Theodore Roosevelt, who said, I'd rather wear out than break down, or something like that. I'm obviously paraphrasing and butchering it at the same time. But yeah, I want to wear out. Burn it up. Yeah, like I think about this ADD thing. It's overdiagnosed. We know that. We know that for a fact. ADD, ADHD, overdiagnosed, especially in the public school system. Yeah, because little Timmy doesn't want to sit there and listen to, Mrs. Johnson talk about whatever the hell she's talking about for 8 hours. He wants to be out there, and he wants to pick up rocks and have snowball fights and turn sticks into guns and have sword fights and build forts and all the things that men should be doing. But, we can't do that. Zero tolerance for any of that violent stuff. Yeah, because you want little Timmy to be little Susie. Literally anymore. This transgenderism thing's like, oh, yeah, well, you don't feel like a boy. Well, no shit, he doesn't feel like a boy. You're not treating him like a little boy. That's why you have all these kids who are like, I don't know, sudden gender dysphoria onset. Well, I don't know if I'm a boy or a girl. Well, line them out. Yeah, you're a boy. Oh, Dad, Mom, I don't know if I'm a little girl or I'm a little boy. I don't know. Yeah, you don't know. So let me tell you, you're a boy. And let me actually show you what that means and how powerful that is and why you'll want to be a boy and how you can fully embrace that. Guys, this world is crazy. It's your job to fix yourself and to fix our young men. This is the greatest threat society faces. You've all heard the thing, strong men create good times create, weak men create hard times create strong men. You've all heard it. That's true. Times are good. We have to make dumb shit up to worry about. That's how good times are. So worry about race and gender and this and that. Like, we don't have anything real to worry about. So we make things up to worry about. Give your boys an opportunity to thrive by exhausting them and just letting them wear themselves out. All right, here we go. Number 4. Yeah, my number 4. I wrote these down so I don't forget them. Number 4, reward the action, not the result. Okay, the results will come, and I think it's important that we honor and recognize those who've achieved. I think that's important. No participation trophies around here. But guys, we got to reward the action. If our boys are out doing the thing and they're engaged and they're pushing hard and they're working out and they're training and they're doing their schoolwork, and they're learning everything they can, and they're pushing themselves, then psychology 101, we need to reward good behavior. The good results, the outcome, the circumstances will take care of themselves. If we're doing the right thing, then we need to honor the action, not necessarily the result. This goes for boys. It also goes for adult males. I'm using that term deliberately because there's a distinction between an adult male and a man, okay? Adult male. We need to foster the right actions, which is getting up, getting out of bed, going to work, planning out your day, executing your day, having discipline, making amends with other people in this processes when you mess up, engaging yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, doing hard things, taking risks, attempting to provide and protect and preside for and over other people. These are all things that we should be doing on a daily basis. And we need to be encouraging the behavior by rewarding the behavior. And I'm not saying give everybody everything. I'm just saying acknowledge it. If a young man exerts himself to his fullest potential, you should acknowledge that and tell him, hey, good job. I know maybe it didn't pan out the way that you wanted it to this time, but I do want to acknowledge that you pushed harder than you've ever pushed, and the results will come. Same thing with yourself. I tend to be in this trap where I focus so much on the results that I get thinking about what the next result is without rewarding myself, not unnecessarily, but rewarding myself for doing good work, for being consistent on the podcast or securing podcast guests or being disciplined with my diet or my workout regimen or going to the gym when I don't want to or going to train. Like, be proud of that. And display pride in your children. That when they do the right things, that's what we should be rewarding. The results will come. Do the right thing long enough, the results will come. And guys, the last thing I wanted to share with you today is that you've got to connect the dots. You have to, because kids, they're not dumb, but they don't know. They're ignorant. And there's a difference between being dumb and being ignorant. Our children are ignorant. And this is why I get so riled up when I hear about this transgender stuff and I see parents who are like, well, like, what do you think you are? You're the parent. You're the adult. If a child comes to you and says, I don't know if I'm a boy or a girl, and I don't know about life, and I don't know about this, and I don't know. Yeah, because they're ignorant by their nature. That's why the family unit is so important, because we have ignorant youth paired up with hopefully wise adults who will say, yeah, you are confused because you're a kid. So let me tell you how things work. Right. How could you? How could you? You don't know. Yes, I do know. I'm the adult. I'm the parent. And if I don't know, I need to get educated. If I'm just as confused as my damn kids are confused, what good am I having around? You're the parent. You're the adult. You're the mentor. You're the employer. You're the leader. You're the coach. Act like it. What if they're upset or offended? I don't care if they're upset or offended. They need to know how the world works. I say things to my kids that they get upset about. That doesn't feel good, because I'm more worried about reality in life than the way they feel about things. And yes, there's a way to deliver it in a tactful way, but damn. Oh yeah, you can be anything you want to be. No, you can't. No, you can't. But let me tell you how to behave. Let me tell you how to act. Let me tell you what works. Let me tell you what doesn't work. That's your job. And you got to connect the dots, because kids won't always do it for themselves. So when my son destroyed this toy, it wasn't like, don't be destructive. He doesn't know why. He feels like he should be. He's like, there's a toy, there's a hammer, I want to smash. Okay, smash it. Because he's ignorant. He's 10. He doesn't know any better. So me as his father comes in and says, hey, look, you're powerful. You can destroy. You can break that thing. You're strong enough to do it. Or you can use the same masculinity, the same feeling, the same testosterone and other hormones going through your body, and you can use that to build and to make and create and solve problems. And then he realizes next time he's all worked up or hot and bothered or wants to smash something, he thinks to himself, well, Dad told me when I feel like this that I ought to build. And so instead of destroying, he goes and builds a home, or he builds a car, or he creates a website, or he takes a picture, or he mows his neighbor's lawn, or he adds value to people's lives. And then he exhausts himself in doing good work as opposed to just being destructive. That he looks at the fire and isn't so infatuated with the fire that he decides to burn down the entire village. There's an old, I believe it's an African proverb that says, the boy, something like this, the boys must be initiated or they'll burn the village down just to feel its warmth. They'll burn the village down just to feel its warmth, because they're ignorant. They don't understand the consequences. And it's our job to understand them for ourselves and then ensure that our children and the people, the kids, the boys specifically in this podcast, that we have a responsibility for, understand the ramifications and consequences of their actions, and then to use the fire, the energy, the masculinity that's coursing through their veins, not to burn the village down, but to build the village up, to serve themselves, to serve other people, to do good work, to be productive, to produce desirable results, and to lead a good life and also help other people lead a good life. That's part of your responsibility as a man. It isn't just about you. That's another distinction between boys and men, by the way. Boys, by their nature, are consumers. They consume, right? Consume resources, energy, time, attention, and men produce more than they consume, which is why we're capable of taking care of a wife and taking care of kids and having employees, because we've learned to produce more than we consume. Consumption doesn't go away. It's just a matter of whether or not you offset it with your production. So there it is, guys. Boys break, men build. What are you? Are you a breaker or are you a builder? What are your sons? Are they breakers or are they builders? It's your job to ensure you're a builder and your sons are builders. And the other boys that you have a responsibility for in some capacity are builders as well. Let's recap and we'll call it a day. Number 1, let the fire off its leash. Controlled burn. We're not letting it run rampant. It's a controlled burn. Number 2, curiosity is a virtue. It's okay to be curious. Number 3, exhaustion is a good thing. Exhaust ourselves. Number 4, reward the actions, not the result. And number 5, make sure you're formulating the connections. You're connecting the dots between what we're talking about: building, breaking, positive behavior, negative behavior, etc. All right, guys, that's all I've got. We'll be back next week on Tuesday for another good interview. So make sure you tune in, make sure you subscribe, leave a rating and review. Check out Origin, jockofuel.com. Use the code ORDER, ORDER at checkout. We might have 1 or 2 spots for Legacy. I don't know based on how many people have registered, but if you want to check it out, that's for boys between the ages of 8 to 15. We talk about a lot of these concepts. You can check it out at orderaman.com/legacy. Also, last note, take a screenshot right now. Take a screenshot on your phone. Share it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you're doing the social media thing. It goes a very, very long way in letting other people know what you're listening to and promoting this work of reclaiming and restoring masculinity. All right, guys, that's all we've got for you today. Go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.